Welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are going to be serving up a double order of insight into the world of food delivery apps.
Ooh, I like that.
Specifically,
Fictitious.
Zomato versus Swiggy.
Ah, yes.
Two titans battling it out in India
A classic rivalry.
for your attention, your loyalty, and ultimately your next order.
It really is a fascinating case study in how companies can take very different routes to reach the same goal.
That's exactly what I'm hungry for.
Well, let's dig in.
We've got a stack of articles and reports comparing their marketing strategies.
Excellent.
So let's dig in and see what makes them tick.
Where should we begin?
Well, I always like a bit of backstory.
Sure.
I know Zomato's been around longer.
Mm-hmm.
How did they each get started?
You're right. Zomato's got the seniority here. They launched back in 2008 originally as Foodie Bay.
Interesting name.
Right. Back then, they were all about restaurant discovery, menus, ratings, that sort of thing. It wasn't until later that they expanded into the food delivery arena.
So they were already a household name by the time Swiggy entered the scene in 2014.
Exactly. Swiggy was a pure delivery play from the get-go, and they grew rapidly to challenge Zomato's dominance.
Talk about a David and Goliath situation. Okay, so both companies need to make sure hungry users can actually find them. What are their SEO strategies like?
Both are incredibly savvy when it comes to SEO, but they take different approaches. Zomato goes wide. They're targeting almost 900,000 keywords, according to our research.
Wow, that's a lot of keywords. Is that even effective?
It seems to be working for them. A whopping 66% of their website traffic comes from organic search. They've built this huge restaurant directory, which is a goldmine for SEO. Think about it. Every restaurant listing every menu item becomes a potential keyword target.
So they're banking on showing up for pretty much any food-related search.
Exactly. Whether you're craving pizza biryani or something super specific like vegan, gluten-free ramen near me, Zomato's probably got a page optimized for it.
Makes sense. But it sounds like a massive undertaking.
It is. But it allows them to cast a wide net and capture a huge chunk of the search traffic. Swiggy, on the other hand, takes a more focused approach. They prioritize website optimization, meta descriptions, H1 tags, the technical stuff.
So they're making sure that when someone does land on their site, it's a smooth experience, and Google loves them for it.
Precisely. Plus, they focus on building high-quality backlinks, other websites linking to theirs. This signals to search engines that their website is authoritative and trustworthy, further boosting their rankings.
So Zomato's playing the volume game while Swiggy's all about quality and precision.
That's a great way to put it. But SEO is just one piece of the puzzle. What about social media? Have you seen some of Zomato's marketing?
Oh, absolutely. They're the kings of meme marketing. Feels like they're always on top of the latest trends, turning them into hilarious food-related content.
It's a brilliant strategy for connecting with a younger, digitally savvy audience. They understand the power of humor and virality. Remember that meme they did comparing biryani to a warm hug?
Oh yeah, pure gold.
Exactly. And it's not just about memes. Their email marketing is equally witty. Those subject lines are clickbait in the best possible way.
I've definitely fallen for a few of those. Now, what about Swiggy? How do they tackle social media?
Swiggy often opts for a more topical approach, tying their campaigns to current events in India. Remember their campaign during the Cricket World Cup?
Oh yeah, they were everywhere. They even had special offers based on which team won each match.
It made them feel like they were part of the national conversation, adding to the excitement of the tournament.
Smart move. Plus, let's be real, their food photography is top-notch. Makes you want to order immediately.
They've definitely mastered the art of food porn, playing into that whole Insta-worthy food trend.
So we've got Zomato, the meme masters, and Swiggy, the topical trendsetters. Both winning strategies in their own right.
It's interesting how their social media approaches mirror their overall brand personalities.
You're right. It's almost like they're speaking different languages to different audiences.
And yet they're both incredibly effective at reaching their target markets.
So far, we've seen how Zomato and Swiggy attract users. But what about the actual experience of using their apps? I feel like there are some key differences there as well.
Absolutely. Beyond the marketing glitz, there are subtle but important variations that impact the user experience.
For example, I find Swiggy's app to be much more flexible with location settings. You can easily order from restaurants outside your immediate area.
That's a good point. They seem to be catering to users who are willing to explore further afield for their culinary adventures.
Zomato, on the other hand, seems to prioritize remembering your preferred payment method. It's the little things that can make or break the user experience, right?
Absolutely. These seemingly small details can significantly impact user satisfaction and loyalty, especially for frequent users.
And speaking of user experience, what about the delivery itself? That's got to be a major factor in choosing a food delivery app.
Couldn't agree more. And this is where Swiggy often gets the edge. They're generally known for faster delivery times.
I've definitely noticed that. Sometimes it feels like my food arrives before I even have a chance to put on pants.
Well, their focus on hyperlocal restaurants likely contributes to their speed. They even charge a distance fee for some restaurants, which suggests they're prioritizing orders within a certain radius.
Makes sense. Zomato, on the other hand, has a wider range of restaurants, including some that Swiggy doesn't.
That broader selection can be a major draw for users who value variety and choice. But it also means their delivery network is more spread out, which could potentially impact delivery times.
Plus, I've heard that Zomato's delivery tracking can be a bit unreliable at times.
That's true. And that lack of transparency can be frustrating for users who are eagerly awaiting their meals.
So it seems like Swiggy's winning the speed game, while Zomato's offering more options. But let's not forget about the thing that really gets our stomachs rumbling, the offers.
Yes. The battle for the best deals.
It seems like Zomato's currently winning the cashback war. They're constantly offering discounts and credits, especially for new and loyal customers.
It's a classic strategy to capture market share and encourage repeat business.
Those Zomato credits are hard to resist, especially when you're feeling indecisive about which app to use.
Right. But I have to say, I've noticed Swiggy stepping up their offer game recently.
It's like a constant back and forth, a culinary tug of war for our wallets.
They're both constantly innovating and adapting their strategies to stay ahead of the competition. It's a testament to how dynamic and competitive this market truly is.
It's definitely keeping things interesting for us, the hungry consumers.
Absolutely. But this battle for our bellies is far from over. We still have much to unpack, from the rise of cloud kitchens to the complex issues surrounding the gig economy.
Ooh, those are some juicy topics. I'm
Yeah.
eager to dig in and see what insights we uncover. But for now, let's take a break and let our listeners digest all this information. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the fascinating world of Zomato versus Swiggy.
Welcome back. I'm ready to delve deeper into these intriguing aspects of the Zomato versus Swiggy battle.
Me too. Last time we left off talking about how both companies are constantly adapting their strategies to stay ahead.
Yeah.
It made me think, do we have any examples of specific marketing campaigns that really stood out? You know, the ones that made a big splash and got everyone talking?
Absolutely. Let's start with Zomato. Their Zomato Premier League campaign was a masterstroke.
Yeah.
They brilliantly tapped into India's cricket fever, creating a virtual league where popular dishes competed against each other. It was genius.
I vaguely remember that one. It felt like the whole country was participating.
Exactly. They had commentary scoreboards, even virtual teams representing different cuisines. It was a brilliant way to engage users, create buzz, and ultimately drive orders. They offered discounts and promotions tied to the virtual matches, so people were actively participating and rooting for their favorite food teams.
So they weren't just creating a fun campaign, they were cleverly integrating it with their business objectives.
Exactly. And Swiggy has its own share of memorable campaigns. Their Voice of Hunger campaign was a game changer.
I love that name.
They partnered with voice assistants like Google Assistant and Alexa, allowing users to order food simply by speaking.
Wait, so you're telling me I could just say, hey, Google, order me a pizza from Swiggy, and it would magically appear at my doorstep?
Pretty much. They recognized the growing trend of voice search and seamlessly integrated it into their platform. It was innovative, convenient, and a stroke of marketing genius.
That's pretty cool. It sounds like both companies are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in food delivery marketing. But beyond specific campaigns, are there any underlying philosophies that guide their strategies?
That's a great question. If we look closely, we can see distinct approaches. Zomato, with its focus on humor and relatable content, seems to be targeting a younger, more digitally native audience. They're all about being part of the online conversation, using memes and trends to foster a sense of community.
It's like they're saying, hey, we get you. We love biryani and memes just like you do.
Exactly. Swiggy, while still engaging and often humorous, adopts a slightly more sophisticated approach. Their high-quality food photography, sleek design, and partnerships with premium brands suggest they're targeting a slightly more discerning audience.
It's subtle, but I see what you mean. While Zomato's all about that casual, fun vibe, Swiggy feels a bit more aspirational, like they're elevating the whole food delivery experience.
It's fascinating how these seemingly small differences in branding and messaging can significantly impact consumer perception and ultimately their choice of app.
Speaking of choices, how does Zomato and Swiggy approach restaurant partnerships? I imagine that's a key part of their strategies, considering restaurants are the lifeblood of their businesses.
It's a crucial aspect, and it's where we see some interesting dynamics. Remember how we discussed Swiggy's focus on hyper-local restaurants? Well, that extends to their partnerships. They tend to work with a smaller, more curated selection of restaurants in each area, often prioritizing those with high ratings and positive reviews.
So they're going for quality over quantity, ensuring a certain standard of dining experience.
Precisely. It creates a sense of trust and exclusivity. Zomato, with its wider network, takes a more inclusive approach. They partner with a broader range of restaurants from well-known chains to local favorites, even those with varying ratings and reviews.
So they're more about giving users a wider variety of choices, catering to different tastes and budgets.
Exactly. It's about empowering users to explore and discover. Both approaches have their pros and cons. Swiggy's curated selection might appeal to those seeking a certain level of quality assurance, while Zomato's expansive range attracts those who prioritize choice and flexibility.
It's interesting how these different philosophies play out in their restaurant acquisition strategies.
Mm.
Do we know if any restaurants exclusively partner with one platform over the other?
It happens, though it's not always clear-cut. Some restaurants, especially those with established reputations and loyal customer bases, might opt for exclusivity to maintain control over their branding and pricing. Others might choose to be on both platforms to maximize their reach.
It makes you realize how complex these partnerships are. It's not just about listing restaurants, it's about building relationships, negotiating terms, and aligning on a shared vision.
Absolutely. And these relationships are constantly evolving. The competition for restaurant partnerships is fierce, as both companies strive to offer the most appealing and diverse selection to their users.
It's like a never-ending culinary chess game, but it ultimately benefits us, the hungry consumers. We get more options, better deals, and more delicious discoveries.
It's a win-win situation. Unless you're trying to stick to a diet, then it becomes a constant battle of willpower versus those tempting notifications.
Oh, tell me about it.
Oh.
But speaking of willpower, I need to resist the urge to order something right now. We still have a lot to cover.
Yes, indeed. We've touched upon many facets of this rivalry, but we haven't even delved into the more complex aspects like the gig economy and the impact of these platforms on traditional restaurants.
Those are definitely topics that deserve a deeper dive. But for now, let's take a quick break so our listeners can ponder all this food for thought. All right, we're back for the final leg of our Zomato versus Swiggy deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground from marketing tactics to user experience. But there's one aspect we haven't explored yet that's been on my mind, the whole gig economy aspect of this industry.
Yes, a crucial element and one that's often debated.
It's fascinating to think that neither Zomato nor Swiggy would exist without their vast networks of delivery partners. But there have been concerns about working conditions pay and whether the gig economy model is sustainable in the long run.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers. Both companies have faced criticism over the treatment of their delivery partners. Concerns have been raised about low wages, a lack of benefits, and the immense pressure to meet those tight delivery deadlines.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore those stories about riders navigating heavy traffic, extreme weather conditions, all to get our food to us quickly. It makes you think about the human cost of convenience.
It's a valid concern, and one that both companies are trying to address at least to some extent. They've implemented initiatives like insurance coverage, safety training programs, and even access to financial services for their delivery partners.
So they are making efforts to improve the situation, but is it enough? The gig economy model itself is built on flexibility and independence for workers, but that often comes at the cost of stability and benefits.
It's a constant balancing act and one that's being closely watched by regulators and policymakers globally. The gig economy is still relatively new, and we're all trying to figure out how to make it work fairly for everyone involved.
It's like a giant experiment with real people's livelihoods at stake.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly something to keep in mind as we enjoy the convenience of these services.
Absolutely. Awareness and ongoing dialogue are essential.
Shifting gears a bit, I'd love to touch on something else we haven't discussed, in-depth data. Both Zomato and Swiggy are sitting on mountains of data about our eating habits, preferences, everything. It's both fascinating and a little bit unnerving.
Data is the lifeblood of these platforms. It allows them to personalize recommendations, tailor offers, and optimize their operations.
So on one hand, it's all about making our lives easier and tastier. It's like having a personal food concierge who knows exactly what we crave.
Precisely. But the flip side is the privacy question. How is this data being used? Is it being shared with third parties? These are questions we as consumers need to be asking.
It feels like a trade-off convenience and personalized experiences in exchange for our data. It's a conversation that needs to happen more openly.
I agree. Transparency and user control over data are crucial.
Okay, so data privacy is something to keep in mind. But for now, let's focus on the positive applications of this data. How are Zomato and Swiggy using it to enhance the user experience?
They're leveraging data to create highly personalized experiences. For example, both platforms utilize collaborative filtering, which means they suggest dishes and restaurants based on your past orders and ratings.
So if I'm someone who orders biryani every other day, they'll keep those biryani recommendations coming.
Absolutely. They analyze your preferences and curate suggestions aligned with your tastes. It goes beyond individual dishes, too. They might prioritize restaurants you've ordered from before or highlight cuisines you've shown a preference for.
It's like they're building a personalized food roadmap for each user.
Exactly. They're trying to anticipate your needs and make the entire ordering process as seamless and enjoyable as possible. And as they gather more data, these capabilities will only become more sophisticated.
It's both exciting and a little bit mind-boggling to think about.
It is. The future of food delivery is likely to be heavily shaped by how these companies utilize data.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from marketing showdowns to the ethical dilemmas of the gig economy and the power of data. What are your final thoughts on this Zomato versus Swiggy battle?
It's a fascinating case study in how two companies operating in the same space can adopt such distinct yet successful approaches. Both Zomato and Swiggy have their strengths. Zomato excels at capturing attention with its wide-reach meme marketing and aggressive offers. Swiggy shines with its focus on speed, a curated selection of restaurants, and innovative features like voice ordering.
So it sounds like there's no clear winner.
Mm-hmm.
It really depends on what you value as a user.
Exactly. Whether you prioritize variety, speed, convenience, or a particular brand experience, both platforms offer a unique value proposition.
That's a great point. I guess it's up to each individual to decide which app reigns supreme in their own personal food kingdom.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of choice, isn't it?
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Zomato and Swiggy. It's been an insightful journey exploring the strategies, innovations, and even the complexities behind these seemingly simple food delivery apps.
It's been a pleasure dissecting this delicious rivalry with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive as much as we have. Remember, the next time you open your favorite food delivery app, think about all the intricate machinations happening behind the scenes to bring that deliciousness to your doorstep. Until next time, happy eating.